Great, thank you very much. So basically, but before going into that, just for the participants in this webinar, just me very briefly explain what CSAC is. You already mentioned at the very beginning, it stands for the Southeast Europe Clearinghouse for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. It has been established back in 2002, actually, as a joint initiative from the governments in the region and the UNDP, actually. And that's why the governments in the region are represented by the Regional Cooperation Council. At that time, it was the Stability Pact. And we function as a UNDP project. The mandate that we have been provided by the governments in the region is to support them in the implementation of their activities in all functional areas of small arms and light weapons control, but also when it comes to ammunition as well as explosives, as well as to facilitate the regional processes, both at the policy and the law enforcement level. I wanted to also provide you a very quick snapshot, actually, of the impact of armed violence in Southeast Europe, to provide you some very concrete figures, actually, when we talk about the challenge, when we talk about the problem that the Western Balkans and Southeast Europe are facing related to firearms in particular. What do we mean? In 2024, for example, there were almost 3,500 incidents of firearms throughout the region. And when I say the region, I mean the Western Balkans plus Moldova. We record these incidents on a daily basis through our very publicly available armed violence monitoring platform. Most of these, at least 51% actually, incidents were related to seizures of firearms, which is on the positive side. But there were many of these incidents recorded either in criminal context, either in accidental shootings or celebratory shootings or hunting incidents. Many of them also, way too many in domestic violence context, but also other contexts. I can also mention that during 2024, there were at least 400 incidents recorded with explosive devices, actually, even though half of these were incidents of seizures, so seized explosive devices coming from information from the citizens. And talking about impact, there were almost, let's say, 119 people that were killed in these different contexts of armed violence or firearms incidents throughout this region. And another also challenge that the region is facing is also the suicides with firearms. So at least 55 people were recorded by in the platform that committed suicide using the firearm. What is the region doing to tackle these issues? Since 2018, with the support initially mainly from the governments of Germany and France, and also joined later on by the European Union, they agreed to endorse a regional document, which is a roadmap, which is like an action plan covering all the functional areas of small arms and light weapons control. So 6 jurisdictions in the Western Balkans, as shown in this in here, and they committed actually to for a safer region, safer Western Balkans, with comprehensive and sustainable, let's say, mechanisms to control the small arms and light weapons, the ammunition and explosives. This action plan or this regional document, the roadmap, has now from 2025 has 5 goals, which are covering 7 functional areas of the arms control. And each of the goals contains specific overall targets, as well as, and this is something that was novelty from this region and that has been also replicated, both the roadmap, but also the monitoring framework composed of key performance indicators. And I think this is also something that is being followed for other international mechanisms or documents globally. The timeline for implementation currently is until 2030. Just very briefly, what these goals in this regional document are covering. I already said that these are covering all 7 functional areas of arms control. And first and foremost is the legal and regulatory framework. It's very important for this region. There not only the development of legal framework, which mostly is in place when it comes to firearms, ammunition, and explosives, but it's their harmonization with the EU acquis because of their ongoing processes of accession to the European Union, but also the compliance with the UN Firearms Protocol, as well as the compliance with the Arms Trade Treaty. So this is one of the key commitments that the jurisdictions in the Western Balkans have actually undertaken. The second goal of the roadmap is related to evidence-based policies, and that means development and implementation of strategic documents, national strategies, and action plans that make this regional document actually operational at the jurisdiction, at the local level, but also implementation of intelligence-led, let's say, policies, investigations, related to firearms-related crimes. The third goal is very much focused on reducing misuse, reducing illicit manufacturing, possession, but also the illicit flows, including the trafficking of weapons, ammunition, and explosives, as well as the control of the legal trade of weapons and ammunition. The fourth goal relates to reducing the supply and demand and reducing the illicit possession of firearms, ammunition, and explosives through several means of prevention. And that includes, for example, awareness raising, it includes voluntary surrender, it includes deactivation, it includes legalization of firearms where this is relevant. And the last but not least important, actually, goal is very much related to the topic that is in discussion today, is the decreasing the risk of proliferation of weapons and ammunition by improving the safety and security of the stockpiles of weapons, ammunition, and explosive, but also reducing these the surpluses as well as the confiscated weapons, ammunition, and explosives. Therefore, I went through these goals just for your understanding of the comprehensive approach that the Western Balkans, that this region has undertaken when tackling this challenge, with very concrete, actually, commitment. Under the last goal that I mentioned that is very relevant, actually, for the topic under discussion today, there are some very concrete targets that are covering, let's say, the whole area of stockpile management, physical security and stockpile management. And the overall targets include, under this goal, include systematical decrease of surplus of the stockpile of small arms and light weapons, ammunition, and explosive, either through destruction or through other means. I need to say that in this region, in the Western Balkans, most of the jurisdictions have already actually reduced their surpluses. I think 10 years ago, this was really a big challenge for jurisdictions in the region, which had inherited large surpluses of stockpiles from their previous regimes, actually. But most of them in the last decade have made considerable progress, and I think it's only in Bosnia and Herzegovina right now that there are still some considerable surpluses of weapons and ammunition to be destroyed. And while the other jurisdictions have only surpluses that are coming out, mostly coming out of their inventory. A specific overall target is also destruction of confiscated firearms, ammunition, and explosives, but also that are collected from voluntary surrender campaigns. We had the case, I think last year, following the mass shootings that happened in Belgrade, in Serbia. I think at least 100,000 weapons were collected following the voluntary surrender campaign that was declared by the government as a response to the mass shootings. So that also provided the need to them, the emergent need to ensure the destruction also of these confiscated, of the voluntary surrendered weapons. Strengthening of capacities of relevant institutions to implement life cycle management of salve and ammunition. And this has been done also through various, in particular through various trainings throughout these years, targeting mostly the armed forces. But I will explain in the subsequent slides. We are actually working quite significantly also with law enforcement, with the police services as well in this regard. Another target is ensuring safe and secure small arms and light weapons, ammunition, and explosives storage facilities based on their identified needs, but also in accordance with international standards. This is an area that in the last decade has been actually an area that the authorities needed quite a significant support. In particular, I think regarding storages of armed forces, but in the most recent years, we noted that the police services were actually left behind. Storages where they keep, for example, confiscated weapons and ammunition or voluntary surrendered, or their conventional, let's say, their weapons. But also what we have increased our support on in the recent years is the security of evidence rooms in police services, because this is something that was, from the assessment, was noticed as a very weak point. And while it is really very important in preserving the firearms as evidence of crimes, and by doing so improving also the outcome of the investigation, but also of the adjudication and prosecution. Then the last but not least in the overall targets is strengthening capacities of institutions for monitoring, oversight, and valuation of stocks, and this relates to both legal entities and individuals. So what this means is strengthening the capacities of law enforcement in particular, who are dealing with the oversight of civilians who possess firearms in legal possession, but also those private legal entities that are dealing with firearms. And that includes, for example, all the shops, the security companies. It includes hunting associations, shooting ranges. So a range of legal and private entities that are dealing with firearms, and therefore it is very important to strengthen capacities of institutions to ensure monitoring and oversight of these entities. Throughout these years, and this is very much actually, I have to say, in line with the global framework on ammunition management as well. The comprehensive support that we have provided to the authorities is it includes, first, as I mentioned, support to development and harmonization of legal framework with EU acquis. When it comes to ammunition, I have highlighted in this slide only what is relevant for ammunition management, and this is regulating various aspects of ammunition, let's say control and management, and it's either their possession, storing, import, export, and other. In addition, we have been supporting through them in developing regulatory frameworks, including SOPs, regulating various aspects actually of ammunition management. Another very important aspect is the data recording and collection. and this is support is being provided with both training, but also tools and equipment as needed in order to improve data recording and collection regarding distribution, misuse, seizures, tracing, destruction, import, export. And this is not provided, this is part of the comprehensive support that we are providing. So it's not only on ammunition only, but it includes also small arms and light weapons. Stockpile management, support to stockpile management, I already mentioned, and this includes a support to improving safety, security, support in improving ammunition surveillance, inspections, but also disposal, either through destruction or through other means of both weapons and ammunition. We are providing constant support also to the authorities in arms and ammunition exports control. And this is first and foremost is through right now is in supporting them in increasing transparency when it comes to the exports of weapons and ammunition. I think this region in the Western Balkans is the only other region besides the European Union that is producing annually an arms exports report. And this has been going on for, I think, at least one decade, with data that are being provided by the institutions themselves in the region. But we are also providing some support to them in whether this is on a recording or whether it is in the tools or trainings in conducting risk assessments in order to prevent diversion of both weapons and ammunition. Another important area of support that we are providing, this relates to integration of the gender perspective in small arms and light weapons, but also ammunition control. And this is both at policy level, but also at practical level. This is very important, in particular, when we talk about firearms and the misuse of firearms in the context of gender-based violence and domestic violence. Therefore, in the last few years, we have worked very closely with the authorities in producing some very concrete guidelines to help them, for example, in conducting risk assessments, in issuing gender-sensitive licenses of firearms. We are also, as I mentioned at the beginning, supporting and facilitating various regional processes, and one in particular relates to the conventional ammunition. It's the regional approach to stockpile reduction. It has been established as a process since 2009, I think initially funded through a US State Department, and then supported with funding support from the European Union. It gathers annually armed forces representatives from Southeast Europe, and with the main aim to share good practices in building weapons and ammunition management capacity. So this is also a process that further contributes to cross, let's say, border cooperation, including at the regional level. My last slide it has some very concrete statistics about the support that we have provided, but also the achievements from this region in the last year, including in the upgrade of security of weapons and ammunition, both storages, but also, as I mentioned, evidence rooms through very specific security measures, actually. Also, the training of the personnel, again, from both armed forces, but also police services in safe storage management, inventory control, emergency response, just to mention a few. The number of weapons, firearms, their parts, as well as ammunition that we have supported the authorities throughout the region to destroy. And I also included one figure that has been reported from 2018 to 2024. This is the total number of pieces of ammunition that has been reported as seized both inland and at the border. So 1.25 million pieces of ammunition reported as seized inland and at the borders by the Western Balkans jurisdictions throughout the years of the implementation of the first phase of the Western Balkans roadmap. Last, actually, in slides, I wanted to highlight some of the publications, related publications on ammunition on very specific topics. Our latest, actually, publication relates to the hand grenades, those produced in the, let's say, in the Western Balkans or originating from the Western Balkans. This publication actually comes with a practical tool as well, and it came upon request from the authorities, from the law enforcement throughout the Western Balkans, because of the challenges that they were facing in actually, let's say, recognizing and identifying the hand grenades when these were seized either within the territories or at the borders. Earlier, we have also supported the arms export authorities with a very specific publication providing guidance on how to address unauthorized re-export or retransfer of arms and ammunition. I already mentioned the arms exports report. That is an annual publication from the Western Balkans. And also the most recent one is also emergency protocol on the storage of ammunition and explosives in let's say, emergency conditions, but also their transport for final destruction. And this also came as a specific request by the authorities. This was as brief and as fast as I could to keep the time, a bit of the experience of the Western Balkans, both in terms of a regional and comprehensive approach in tackling not only the ammunition, but also the small arms and light weapons, but as well as the explosives, and some concrete achievements from their side when it comes to ammunition, conventional ammunition management.